Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Scotch and a Beer with Officer Dan. This is going to be episode number 14. Holy smokes! If you enjoy these videos in any way, shape, or form, please subscribe. I'm trying to release these things every Monday with a random smattering of content throughout the week afterwards. I skipped last Monday due to a large event that I threw out here in the desert named the No Coast Drift Party. This was our 9th year of doing this. We had a really good time. There was 128 drivers that came out. We had close to 1,000 spectators. Adam LZ joined us, which was really cool of him to do that. We had quite a few Pro 3 drivers out there. We had Brandon Wignick, Nick Stuckey, we had Blinky, we had Dwayne Ramsey, we had Will Parsons, we had John Yim, we had myself. So it was like a Pro 3 hoedown. So ever since last year, we started doing this thing when the metal bands come on called Mosh Pit Dodgeball. And I meant to do this last year, but all the dodgeballs ended up in the fire pit. So I saved one out for myself, and I got all the drivers to sign it. So this dodgeball means the world to me. Thank you guys so much for coming out for the No Coast Drift Party 9, and I hope to see every single one of you, plus some, again, at No Coast Drift Party 10. The X is going to be insane. Anyway, in episode 13, I had just become Officer Dan. You know, the dude from the High Plains Police Department with the redneck accent that flipped his car. Now, we'd filmed the video, but I didn't actually realize how much that name would actually stick once the video came out. And now, since I did flip my car, as I mentioned earlier, I was super bummed about it, but I couldn't talk to anybody because the project was hush-hush. And I couldn't tell a soul. I had to cover it under a tarp at Car Crafters and just cry myself to sleep every night. In this episode, I'm going to go over the emotional roller coaster that was the release of Motorcycle vs. Car Drift Battle 2, as well as making new chassis and creating a new car, as I myself put it. But first, a scotch and a beer. This time we got a beer up called the Colorado Native. This was kindly brought to me down to No Coast Drift Party, imported from Colorado. The Olathe, Colorado Native beer. It's made from corn, so it is a corn lager. And huge thanks to Robert Robinson, who did all that epic chase footage that I'm going to release later on this week, for bringing this down for me just for this video. He gave me 2. I drank 1. It was fantastic, so I couldn't wait to put it on Scotch and a Beer. Just west of the Black Canyon sits the town of Olathe, known for its sweet corn. We thought it would be equally tasty in this German-style lager. And it is. At least they're confident about it. And they aren't joking. This is a super sweet lager. But not sweet in the way that you would think of like a hard cider. More sweet in the way that like Cheerios are sweet, where it's just kind of a hint of that good stuff. But you can definitely taste the corn and the aftertaste, and I absolutely love this beer. Thank you, Robert. Now for my scotch, I'm going to go with another from the Glen Livet tree. This one's going to be the 15 year. We've done the 12 and we've done the 18. This is going to be the 15. This is my least favorite of the 3 that I can actually afford. I had a brand new bottle of it that I got in a Costco 3-pack. And I'm running out of scotches to test. I'm actually going to have to go re-up because we've blown through all of my scotches. So we're going to give this one a try. Vanilla, toasted oats, and something I can't quite make out. Toffee and something floral. I don't know quite which floral it is, but it's a good scotch. It's just not my favorite. I really enjoy the 12 year and I really enjoy the 18 year. The 15 year has always been just a little bit off for my particular palate. I'm sure there's a big fan club for it. It's just not my favorite, but it is literally the last one that I have until I have to go buy more. But there are definitely much worse scotches than this, so keep that in mind as well. Onwards and upwards to the story part of Scotch and a Beer. Now we filmed Motorcycle vs. Car Drift Battle 2 late in November of 2010. Fast forward to a feverish editing session by Matt Sanders, and the video was slated for release on January 12th, 2011. So just a few months later. It shows you how the vision that the director had and all the shots that we actually got flowed exactly into what he wanted to make this video into. Now, January 12th, 2011 was a moment that I would lose my previous nickname, which was Turbo Dan, and pretty much everybody knew me as Turbo Dan, and I got that nickname before I was even into cars because I eat fast. My buddy Jean-Marc gave that one to me, and it stuck all the way up until 2012, when Officer Dan would officially take over as my new nickname. Now, I'd never been a part of anything viral on the internet, especially a really cool drift video. I'd watched plenty of drift videos online. There were countless of them that I just had on repeat constantly, like a 2-year-old just watches the same thing over and over again. I had my full bookmark list on YouTube, and I watched those videos religiously, just trying to pick up little things. I thought some videos were really cool. I liked the guys in some, and some of the cars in some, but I was never a part of any of those. Never really planned on it. It just kinda happened. Now, up until this point, I was, like I said, depressed about my wrecked car, and depressed about the fact that I couldn't tell anybody about it, and depressed about the fact that I didn't have any money to do anything to make a new car. I was really bummed out. The video came out that day, and the internet went absolutely apeshit over this thing. Now, I also consider this the very last time that Facebook would actually allow YouTube links to take over their own social media platform. I think that Motorcycle vs. Car Drift Battle 2 was on my feed for a solid 3 weeks, like nothing but Motorcycle vs. Car Drift Battle 2. And for those of you that have ever used Facebook, which is probably a good chunk of you, you know that when you put something up, it gets buried immediately. If you put something up and it has a YouTube link in it, it gets buried before you even post it. Like for me, I have like 10,000 or so people that follow me on my Facebook page. When I post a YouTube link, Facebook shows that to like 14 people and it'll get like 3 likes. I don't know what the percentage ratio of 3 versus 10,000 is, but it's not very high. Anyway, this is long before I had a fan page. This is long before anybody even gave a shit who I was. The video came out, and like I said, it was gnarly. Non-stop being tagged in stuff, non-stop being reposted by people, non-stop in blogs, non-stop in vlogs, non-stop in magazine articles and TV news, and oh, it was just insane. And I was trying to keep up with all of this stuff. I tried to keep track of all of the places that were reposting, and I got lost, and I could not keep up with the amount of media places that were actually reposting this little video we made in Southern Washington. Within 3 days of it being up on the internet, it shot straight to #1 viewed video on YouTube, and it was the #1 video for an entire week. After that, it jumped into us battling back and forth between Motorcycle vs. Car Drift Battle 2 and The Lady with Two Vaginas. So we were neck and neck and neck. I could have said something else, but I chose not to. And we actually ended up pulling ahead. And we were again #1 for another week or week and a half after that, until I think Justin Bieber released some music video, and that one just blew us out of the water. Thanks, J-Biebs. Whatever, our video was cooler anyway. Now, the views were piling on by the millions. It wasn't just ticking up slowly, it was every time I looked at it, it would be a 50,000 or 100,000 view increments. And I was just like, what is even going on right now? I don't know how to feel. Now, it currently sits around 32,898,000 something views. And that goes up, I'm sure, by the day as people stumble upon it or want to rehash the glory days of 2011 and go back and give it a look. Me. Now, there was also a ton of reposts that got put up, and Icon was really good about having most of those reposts taken down. There was one repost in particular that for some reason they left up, and it ended up garnering another 21 million plus views on it, bringing the grand total of this video to like 53.5 million views of people looking at my stupid mustache, my crappy driving, and the dudes shredding on motorcycles. That's a lot. So cheers to each and every one of you out there who has given that a look, or 10 or 12 or 14 or 1400. I appreciate every single one of you. Now, a ways down the road, after it had been released, some idiot thought it would be a great idea to take our audio and sound out of it and replace that with Shinedown's Bully. And some people thought that was their official music video, and I absolutely hated it. I kind of feel like people that like Nickelback, they don't like people that like Shinedown. It's the same kind of thing. So if you don't like Nickelback, you automatically don't like Shinedown, and I am in that camp. So to have that be associated with me sucked, and really for some reason that video is still up to this day. You can go look at it. Idiots. Why couldn't they have done it to Dimmu Borgir or Suga or any other hard rock band that actually is worth their grain in salt? Shinedown. Come on, people! Being associated with Shinedown sucks. Anyway, within a couple of hours of the video being posted, it made its way onto Ziptide. Now, Ziptide is this, like I said, car community of guys that I really, really looked up to. It was an honor to be on there. And one of the prominent videographers on that website, Gay Andy, actually posted it up. And I was like, oh, things are about to get serious. People are going to rip into me. They're going to hate me. They're going to think it's a dumb idea. And I'm not going to be allowed on Ziptide anymore. And instead, it went the complete opposite direction. People were like, who is this guy that was driving this? Is he on here? What's his name? And of all people, Chris Forsberg chimed in and said, it's Dan Brockett, and he wrecked his car at the end. I was like, Chris Forsberg knows my name? Chris Forsberg knows my name? So that was a pretty awesome feeling. And CJ jumped in and said, yeah, he flipped his car, totaled it. Dan's rad, love Dan. And then it just kind of turned into, hey, this was actually a really cool video, good job. And I was surprised, and I knew that if Ziptide liked it, then the entire rest of the internet would like it. And so a huge sigh of relief waved over my body, and Chris Forsberg knew my name. Anyway, this whole experience was like this gigantic barrage of dopamine. If you could take every single positive and happy social media moment that you've ever had and shoot it up intravenously, that's what releasing a viral video was like. I couldn't get enough. I was addicted to how many blogs shared it, who was commenting on it. I think I literally commented on almost every single comment for like the first 3 weeks that this video was out. It was like thousands. At one point I actually got banned for making comments on the video. And about a month in, when the video kind of started to taper off, the dopamine high kind of ended and reality started to set in. It was like, all right, now people are starting to recognize me in public. I don't know if I'm okay with this. Things are starting to get a little bit weird. I mean, this was my 15 minutes of fame, I guess you could say. It just lasted almost a month. But like I said, I wasn't ready for everything else that came with that. So I would roll up to a car meet and all these people who could have given two shits about me before, I was just the idiot that drifted cars. Now it was, hey, I know this dude. Hey, that guy's my friend. Hey, yo, what up, dude? I'm like, I don't know any of these people. Help. I think the only positive out of it is it seems like a lot of people from AutoZone recognized who I was more than anywhere else. And I would get discounts at AutoZone. People would be like, hey, you're Officer Dan. Hey, I'm going to give you a discount on these spark plugs. And I'm like, yeah, I love discounts on spark plugs. And in hindsight, which is always 2020, I should have started making more content immediately after that. I've had my YouTube channel since like 2007 or 2008, and I never did a thing with it. I never planned on doing a thing with it. I never planned on doing this. I never planned on becoming a professional driver. It just kind of rolled into what it eventually is now. And I may not have a lot of people that watch these videos, but for those of you that do, I thank you very much again. And I'm just happy that people got a kick out of this little internet video that we made and that it did actually do so well. If it did anything at all for me, it was great on a resume. Didn't make any money off of it, but it was good on a resume. I think my favorite part about the whole release aspect of Motorcycle vs. Car Drift Battle 2 is that it wasn't just getting shared on car websites. Like, having Top Gear share our stupid video means the world to me, and that was like a bucket list thing. Like, wow, I cannot even believe that happened. But it was like Perez Hilton and Iken Has Cheeseburger and all of these other like lifestyle blogs were starting to share it. The Chive did a thing on it. Like, it's like, okay, so this has now transcended motorsports somehow and is starting to affect normal people that aren't into cars. And that's why I think this video was so magical. It was because it was likable and shareable by guys that are not into cars. Guys and girls that are not into cars, sorry. I was getting messages about people like, hey, how can I get my Mustang to drift? It's so awesome that you did that. I got messages like, hey, you just ruined the entire history of Mustangs, and how could you even call yourself a car person by doing this crap with that car? To, hey, is that thing for sale? And I'm like, God, man, I don't even know. I even got a letter from PETA saying that they wanted us to take the video offline because I murdered snakes. Come on, PETA. Do you think I'm dumb enough to hold a gun in a snake's mouth that's trying to kill me? Y'all are high. Just threw that one in the old trash bin. All of this was a dopamine overload, and I was not prepared for it. I ended up having to call in for a couple of days of work just to kind of recover from all of the searching and articles and comments and everything that I was doing, and it was super overwhelming. So for all of you guys that are like big vloggers and people of clout on the internet, I completely feel for you. I mean, this was back in 2011. There really wasn't that yet. So it was like, I got a very small taste of it for a very short period of time, and I hated it. So kudos to you guys for keeping up the keep up. It's a hard life. I'm chilling now though, everything's fine. Now it was about this point that Matt Sanders did something he really didn't have to. I had my GoPro on when I rolled my car, and Matt offered to buy that footage from me to A, put in the end of the video, and to B, create a video all on its own. So Matt gave me about $2,500 for that footage, which I cannot thank him for enough. I think maybe they felt sorry for me and they said, okay, let's give this idiot a little bit of cash so he can buy a new car. And that's exactly what I did. Now I used that money that Matt gave me to immediately go out and buy a kind of a daily driver. Not that I needed it, but I wanted to have one. I got an SR powered S13 coupe and I fell in love with that thing. It had that weird brown interior, but I got it for super cheap because it was not running the best. We ended up changing a few things and paid the man $2,000 and drove home in a SR powered coupe. I also had a roommate at the time who owed me lots of money in back rent. So I claimed the S13 shell that was sitting in my garage for months and months, unpaid and unpaid rent. And that became my new car that I would get new chassis, make new car out of. Because I was now starting to come down off of that sweet dopamine high that I was on, and I needed to get serious. Drift season was right around the corner, and I no longer had a car to drift with. And I didn't want to stop the momentum that I had from last season. I really wanted to get my license, A, to prove to the world that I wasn't just a one-hit wonder with this stupid internet video, and B, to continue the momentum I had from last season where I'd placed 8th overall. Whew. Now, to put things in perspective, I'd lollygagged until the very end of January before I bought that shell, and the first event of Top Drift was in April, and then XDC was the very next weekend after that. I brought the car over to Car Crafters in early February, and we immediately got started removing the sound deadening and all the gross dirt and the panels, the wiring. We stripped this thing down to basically a bare shell. The shell was straight, and that's really all that mattered. Once it was stripped down naked, we poured a bunch of oven cleaner all over the entire thing and got it cleaned the F out. And as we were dropping the gas tank, I'm sitting over here like, I hate building cars. I hate building cars, and I always end up having to build cars. It's not my favorite part about driving, is the building of the cars part. Here we go again. Self-induced here we go again, but here we go again nonetheless. It was now time for the roll cage, so I downloaded the newest version of the Formula D rulebook that I could, and off Car Crafters went fabbing up one of the sweetest roll cages I had ever seen. I mean, there were dimple dies freaking everywhere. It's mid-February, the car has a roll cage in it and literally nothing else, and I'm starting to get those feelings again like, I'm not going to make the first event. This is happening again. It's deja vu. I cannot believe I put myself in this position. And I had a ton going on with work, so I couldn't take a whole lot of time off to go work on the car like I really wanted to, and I was super disheartened, bummed, and I could feel the fact that I was not going to make the first round of Top Drift again. Now, shortly after the video came out, I was actually allowed to talk about the S13 and how I crashed it and the details on the Mustang, and I made these posts on my old blog about all of the above. That include all the wrecked pictures I had of the white coupe. Phone's blowing up. So yeah, put all the wrecked pictures on my blog of the S13. Still makes me sad to this day. And it was at this point that we decided it'd be a good idea to finally strip that sucker down. We took all of the good parts off of it, which on the outside wasn't very many. I think the seats and the steering wheel, the left side was okay. The right side was completely trashed. The strut tower area was W'd. So we couldn't reuse the shell without major work, and it would not have been worth it to do so. Now, that being said, we hauled that sucker off to the scrapyard, and I got a check for a frosty $63 US for that entire shell, which honestly made me cry a little bit. Still crying to this day. I'm fine. Everything's fine. We also, at this point, fabbed up a new front end and a fuel cell mount, because this was going to be a real race car here, people. It had a fuel cell. Now that most of the fab stuff was done, it's time to get our sand on. And like Miyagi, we did not wax on nor wax off. We sanded for freaking hours. Did I mention how much I hate sanding? And this was just the inside of the car and the engine bay. They slapped on a base layer of white, and I had ponied up and bought the most expensive paint that I have ever gotten, which was that neon yellow that I loved so much. And the dude that painted it thought that I didn't have enough paint, and instead of asking, decided to mix a bunch of white with it, and it came out a creamy pastel yellow rather than my signature burn your freaking retinas out yellow. It was at this point that I chose not to care for the sake of time and my wallet, because I would have had to buy more of that freaking expensive paint. And we went on installing bits and pieces of the old car onto the new shell. It was also at this point that I took the daily out to my first drift event of the season that I was now fully in charge of and running semi-successfully thanks to No Coast, and it did pretty awesome. It wasn't the fastest car out there, but at least I was drifting. It was after this event that we decided that there was no way in hell that this car that we were working on was going to make it to Top Drift Round 1. So, in a rather large fit of kindness, one of the guys that works at Car Crafters decided, hey, you can use my car. I'm just now finishing the build, but it should be good to go. This was a Lexus SC300 with a race seat, a steering wheel, a tapped-in hydro e-brake, a welded diff, coilovers, and a 1J engine. 1JZ. No shit. Now, I took this out to a track day that I had set up just so that I could get a little bit of practice in before round 1, because I was, again, in a car that I'd never driven, and this time I was going to drive the damn thing before I went out and tried to qualify at a Pro-Am competition. It ripped. I mean, it was perfect. It handled so super well. It was impossible to spin out because of the long wheelbase. It was nice to feel a suspension that actually worked, because it's based off the Toyota Supra platform, and I could put it everywhere I needed to be. I immediately felt comfortable in this car. So stoked. Since the test went so well, we decided it would be a fantastic idea to get it all packed up, loaded, and ready for Top Drift Round 1 at Balcony. And that is where I'm going to end this episode. Stay tuned for the next one where I take the boat that I had borrowed for Top Drift and floated it through its natural habitat, aka water, snagging my first podium and getting to drive with a bunch of pros at XDC Phoenix. It was also at this point that I'm going to get interviewed by Keep Drifting Fun in our second meeting. So thanks again for watching, and please stay tuned next Monday for the next episode of Scotch and a Beer with Moi. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace!